I can't help smiling. These long, massive intros where I don't know where all this information comes from. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And you're doing an amazing job. I'm glad you took over. So today I'm speaking about basic instinct. Apologies for that picture. It's quite scary. You might not sleep tonight. It was my first thought. So it was an act of instinct. So be it as it may, I'm going to talk about have we forgotten our inborn marketing instinct. And it's something I'm truly passionate about. And I'm going to start with a story. And it's my first love. So I fell in love at school when I was about 16 years old. She was out of my league. She was English. I was Afrikaans. I'm probably still Afrikaans. And she was the girlfriend of the captain of the A-team rugby, you know. And I suppose the only thing that I got an A for at school was being average. So I wasn't good at school, and I wasn't good at sport. And I had this idea. I had this instinct, this feeling in my gut, just the thought. I'm going to draw a face on a chicken egg, and then I'm going to give it to her, and then she's going to love me. And I did exactly that. I took an egg from my mother's fridge, and I drew a face on it, and I remember the exact spot at break time where I went to her and I gave her this chicken egg. And I remember blushing. I come from a blushing family, and ran away. And I won her heart. And it's fascinating. We got married. We're still together 35 years later. And born into our home was this beautiful boy 13 years ago. And I always think, especially in these tough times, you know, and we all strive to make money. But everyone in this audience who's got a child will agree that you can't put a rand value on a child's head. If you give me 3 million rand and say, give me your son, I will go, no. So it's just a demonstration of the true value of an act of basic instinct. And the second story I want to share is in 1997, we had this idea. Let's start a takeaway advertising agency. So let's have an agency where the pricing is transparent and we have a menu with rare, medium, and well-done ideas. And you can come into our diner and buy some ads. And it was such a powerful, instinctive feeling that we resigned on the spot. And we opened the doors to Joe Public in 1998, March. And 23 years later, this other bricks and mortar child of mine and ours, my partners, is going into adulthood. And the value, I think there's so much more value we want to bring to this world as a business. But it's just spectacular that that act of basic instinct could result in what we have today. And it always fascinates me because there was no business plan. There was no overthinking. There was no research on whether, I don't want to say, could my wife cook, but because I should be cooking and she should be mowing the lawn. But it was just an act of instinct. So there's also the saying, you know, I have butterflies in my tummy. So I have to speak today in front of 1,500 people, and I woke up with butterflies. I didn't wake up with butterflies between my ears, you know. And similarly, when the love of my life for a sort of short 3 months of our journey together left me for an English guy, which I have no issues with. It just keeps on coming up. But she left me when I went to the army. I coined an amazing line. I went to fight for the safety of my girlfriend and a boyfriend. But be it as may, I never got a headache. I got a heartache. You know, and no matter how much of the GP's choice I would take, it would not mend my broken heart. So it's just to me interesting how we operate as human beings and this huge wisdom that resides below our heads. Now, of course, in marketing and advertising, I would be lying if I say it's all about the heart. You know, it's not just all about the heart. We're in the business of the heart and the head. And of course, the magic and the logic. And we know that and we understand that. And what I think what's happened, though, over the last 20 years, because I remember the 90s, there was still a huge amount of high caliber campaigns coming from our country. But over the last 20 years, I've absolutely seen the demise of the caliber of the work that we used to be able to do as a fraternity. And I think it's because we've lost our hearts and we've made it all about the head. Now, interesting, and you can go and research this. I love this model that speaks to the head and the heart, the IQ and the EQ and the SQ, the spiritual wisdom, And it's a fact that the mind, the head, the brain that listens to this conversation processes at 2,000 bits per second, whilst the heart, the gut, the instinct processes at 400 billion bits per second. So that is 2 tons of processing power against 1 gram, and that's a fact. And in the boardrooms where I've got the pleasure of operating in with our amazing clients, I often, more often than not, I see that basic instinct response to ideas, and then it's like, let me go and think about this, and then the next day when the revert comes, everything's changed. And as we go through that process and go back to the drawing board and we redo our thinking, slowly over time we end with an end result that no one really talks about. And that to me is, I think, the context that I want to set. So the result of all of this, and it's not like this all the time, but the result factually to me is that 95% of what we do is not that good. And you can go and check this if you do leave your lockdown homes and you drive anywhere. You can go and try and find outstanding work that really provokes you, that makes you resonate with the brand that advertises. Go and see if you can find it in any of the spaces, be it in the online digital spaces, on social, on television, on billboards. There's not much of it. And I think my 5%, 95% is maybe being a bit nice. And that to me in a 50 billion rand industry is almost a crime, especially in a country where a lot of people can't eat. So that's the negative side of it. So now I want to give a few pointers towards why we really should put a focus on doing more of the kind of work that we should be doing for our brands. So firstly, I called it 5 logical. So I'm using my head here. I'm trying to use rational reasoning like my partner Laurent, our strategist. But reason number 1 is campaigns based on basic instinct will add exponential value to your media space. So it always fascinates me, as agencies, there's our fee and there's the production fee. And those fees are highly negotiated and debated, and especially when it gets to production. It's always where we try and save money. But 80% of that 50 billion rand is spent on media. So there can be no denying the fact that work that is really outstanding exponentially increases that value of media spend. And then the work that I showed that lovely emoji about, that work erodes that value. It takes away from that value. So that's the first point. Great work makes the media money work harder. And that's what we should aim to do. Reason number 2, campaigns based on basic instinct are more likely to occupy the most valuable space available to us as marketers. This is an absolute fact. And that's the space between our consumers' ears. That's our number 1 duty, is to do work that absolutely sticks there in the mind of that consumer and points them towards our brands and make them love our brands. And that is our duty. Point number 3, campaigns based on basic instinct will outperform wallpaper by 4-1. Now, this used to be 11-1 research by McKinsey's International. They did a 16-year case study over a 16-year period of Cannes work, and the real work that won gold at Cannes performed 11 times more, or at a high level by 11 times to average work. It's a fact. Now, I know that a big research house is going around to all clients and saying, well, we must watch out, it's come down to 4, it's declining. Well, it's still 400% more of a return than the terrible emoji work that we do, that we put out there. Reason number 4, campaigns based on basic instinct will earn you a seat at the C-suite table. Now, another bit of research, I don't know why McKinsey found our industry so interesting, but another bit of research by McKinsey showed that 2 out of 3 CEOs do not trust their CMOs. That's a factual research, and I really believe it's because 2 out of 3 CMOs are not doing collective with their agencies. I can't blame our clients. We're in this game together, but we are not doing good enough. And hence, we are not moving the needle on our brands, and hence, the execs don't trust us as marketing experts. And I know for a fact when we get it right, then they absolutely herald us as a fraternity. and I'm super passionate about it. And lastly, and this one is, I put a lot of time into this one, finding this fact. Most surprisingly, I was blown away by this. Campaigns based on basic instinct creates 11 times more fun. So I sucked that one out of my thumb, which means it comes out of my wisdom, which means it's the truth. And I've experienced it like that. When we do the 5% of the time that we do what we do, the work where Twitter blows up, where consumers talk about it, where people phone and say, wow, we love what you've done for this brand, where we hear that the client got a round of applause from her peers. When we hear these things and when we see what great work can do, I think that's what excites me the most. And that's when we have fun. And also when we execute this kind of work, you know, you don't mind working through the night when you're doing something that you love to do. So it's game-changing, is as exciting for us as the agencies as it is for our clients, and I have got evidence of that. So in conclusion, because I want to play out with a 2-minuter, which Tebogo mentioned earlier on, a piece of work I'm exceptionally proud of. But in conclusion, we are at a marketing conference. We've got a full day of taking a breather, and you know, it's so easy for everything to go in the one ear and out the other ear, hence my little provocation in my white little outfit on my first slide. You know, I really want just one thing to stick. Now, I used to smoke for 18 years of my life. And when I look back at that amazing habit, which I loved, it said smoking kills on the cigarette, on my box. And I still would light up a cigarette and smoke. So I believe today that knowledge is not power. You know, knowledge is just knowledge. Smoking kills is knowledge. The day I apply the knowledge is when what I do become powerful. So I've given you the facts. They're all taken from data that is available to all of us, and it's just knowledge. And if we don't apply that knowledge, then we will never turn it into power. So I'm going to leave you with the last bit of input, and this is not my thought at all. I know international brands are doing this, and it's about starting small. So I call this the basic instinct budget. So this is for your next period, whether it's June to July, Feb to March, or beginning of the year to end of the year. But what if you took 5% of your budget and you call that the basic instinct budget? Now, if you've got R1 billion to spend, then of course 50 million is not highly advisable to risk. But if you've got 100 million, make it 5 million. If you've got R1 billion, make it 5 million, make it 0.5%. Take that money and put it into work that resonates. When you see it, you feel it with your gut, and you don't change a thing. And you allow your agency to make that piece of work, and you give them the freedom, and you trust them. Because when you give them the freedom, it's all the onus on them. Trust me, we work harder in that situation. And then see what comes from it. So I'm going to play out with the same piece. It's a case study for secrets. It's a piece of work when we presented it to our client. She completely followed her gut. Big F work, I love it. And it happened with a huge amount of freedom. And it's the work I'm the most proud of. So thank you very much.
I'm here to say, look, there's no crisis.
I did not lie.
I stumbled across this trailer.
A trailer. Really excited about it. It looks really good.
This thriller.
Is
Apparently it is amazing. This is proper Hollywood studio stuff.
It's called...
You think it'll never happen to you,
Another late night? Let's get out of here.
but it did. I owe money everywhere.
Another money.
I think I've lost everything. We're bankrupt.
Two out of three South Africans spend more than they earn.
The most powerful way to get South Africans talking about money.
This is not what I want.
Wow, I didn't expect that. That's the first time a bank's got my attention.
One banking institution has come up with a way to reach consumers and get them to think about how they manage money.
To use the power of cinema to tell or address important social issues, it's a powerful move.
It's very eye-opening.
It's an important film for young South Africans to watch.
Uncedo lwakho, uncedo usapho lwakho.